Hi creative friends, my name is Ashley, the Thrifty Chica. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back again. I always love hearing what you guys have to say and what you guys are working on. So let me know before we get started, have you made a custom mug using the Mug Press? And if you haven't, and you're maybe just considering the Mug Press, let me know what type of mug you'd like to make. Like what would you put on your mug? So today I'm going to show you guys how you can take some basic elements inside Design Space and create something that's really custom and unique for you. And I'm just going to show you the process of playing around, how you can size it to make sure it's going to fit your mug, and just give you an idea of how you can use some of the different elements inside Design Space to be creative. So we're going to walk through all of this. If you guys just want to use the pre-made project, check out the link in the description box. It'll take you directly to this project so you can use it right away. If you'd like to learn, you can keep watching the rest of this part and learn. Otherwise, you can skip to the timestamp I'll have linked on the screen so you can go straight to seeing me actually making this. So we're inside Cricut Design Space. I'm in the desktop version here, and this is the project that you guys are going to have access to inside the link in the description box. And as you can see, it really is not super complex as far as what's involved. There's a square, a circle, some stripes, and a font. So it's very, very simple, but it's really fun. This is a great way to use some of the different tools inside Design Space. So we're going to go ahead and start from scratch. So I'm going to show you guys how you actually make this part. So we're on the main screen inside Cricut Design Space, and I'm in the projects window here. And so all I'm going to do is scroll down to the bottom. You can also search in projects. We're going to go into mug design setup. And what we want to do with the mug design setup is to figure out first the size of the mug that we want to use. So choose which size of mug you're going to use, either the 12 ounce or the 15 ounce. And then I like to choose the large or the small straight edge. So whichever size we're going to use, just pick a straight edge, and it makes it easier for you to design with. So we're going to click on customize. And what this does is this gives you a template for the sizing and the placement indicators here. So this is why we're going ahead and starting out with this template. We won't be using the elements the same way, so we're going to design our own. For this, we're going to use a few different options, and the first are the different shapes. So if you click on the shapes here on the left, there's a couple different items that we're going to be using. We're going to be using a square and also a circle. And for this one, we're actually going to be using a couple different squares. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and click duplicate. If you're on a mobile device, you can go to the bottom of the screen where it says actions and click duplicate, or you can also on the desktop version duplicate up here on the top right. So we're going to click duplicate. We're going to be using each one is going to represent something different. So for this one, this is going to represent a pink section. So I'm going to make this a nice bright pink. And this will be representing the color black. So I'm going to go and pick black. And this itself will end up representing the color black as well. So that way we have kind of a basis for this. So I'm going to be making a mug that is white, pink, and black. And I just really love the color scheme, so I thought it would be really fun to work with. We're also going to go into images, and I'm going to search for something that's called chevron stripes. And it's this image right here. I'm using this one. You can search by either the name chevron stripes or by the number here as well. We're going to go ahead and select that and click insert images. So if you go into Design Space and you see an element that you like and you'd like to include in your mug, you can always bring that in and just work on including that one in there too. So we're going to go ahead and move this down a little bit. So we're going to be using this template to help us design exactly how we would like our project to look. So for this, I want the pink on the top here, and we're going to be changing this from a square to a rectangle. So to change the sizing on this one and the length, we're going to go ahead and click where this little padlock is, and we're going to unlock it. And what this allows us to do is really change up the ratio of everything here. So we're going to use this template on the background to size it exactly the same as what we're looking for here. So we can kind of drag that over here and use this visually to really see and make sure that we're lining everything up where we'd like. So I'm going to have this split kind of almost into thirds. Here, the bottom section will be a little bit larger, and I'll have the middle section a little bit smaller. So but essentially that's what we're going to go for. So I have the pink section is going to be there. This section is going to be in the middle. So same thing. I'm going to click on the little unlock here, and we're going to stretch this across as well. And I'm just going to line these up and drag this over. And I want this band to be a bit smaller. So next we're going to take a look at this section, and I'm going to adjust the sizing on this so that this one fits approximately within that width section. So I'm going to get that so it lines up perfectly on the edges here. And you might notice that there are too many lines here to fit on our mug. So I want it so that the points on this connect kind of perfectly. And so we're going to probably have to adjust this a little bit to make this work. In fact, I think I want these sections here to also fit within it, so you get 2 sets of really nice perfect ones. Let me go ahead and move this up a little bit. Yeah, I would like it so it hits right at the points there, where the points hit with the black and the points hit on the bottom as well. So I think the sizing is pretty good on that. I will have to adjust down the sizing of this black section and this pink section. So I'm going to bring that in just a little bit. And that's kind of the neat thing when you're designing something like this. And this is a very simple design, but it's really adjustable to whatever you would like it to look like. So if you want your black band here to be a little bit larger, you totally can. But we know this is going to take up too much space here. So this bottom section, and how do we change that? You can click on the item itself. You can go down to the bottom right corner where it says contour. Then you can select the outline portions to cut on and off. So you can zoom in here. This one's pretty small, so we'll zoom in. We don't want this section and this section visible. So I'm just clicking on those, and it makes those sections disappear. And now we have kind of the basic outline that we want to use. We can take this blue section of our mug wrap and move this out of the way, because that's lined up where we need it. So we can take that off and just insert this one right in. Make sure that everything lines up so it looks nice. But that would be cute in and of itself, but I want to add some type of monogram here. So how do you add a monogram? You could place the letter right in there and slice it out, and then you have it ready to go. But I wanted to create this to have kind of a centerpiece for it. So you can take your circle and size it to whatever size you think is going to look the best on this one. So I want a little bit of each section to show up through this. So I'm going to make it so that it's a little bit smaller than this. I want to show most of what's here. So it cuts in a little bit here and right there. So I want this center section to be where the monogram is. You can always move this around. Oops. You can always move this around so you have one centered here and one centered here. Just keep in mind that when you're designing this, that the placement indicators on the top section here, this is so it is lined up perfectly on the left, perfectly on the right, and also through the middle. So you'll definitely want to keep these up as you're doing the placement of your design. So once we figured out exactly where we want our design, we're going to go ahead and kind of center it in here, and we've gotten the center there, we've gotten the center there. We can only slice so many elements at the same time. I believe it's 2 elements at a time. So this is too many elements at the same time. That's 4 different elements. So what we can do is we can hide some of these elements. So we can slice one section at a time. So I'm going to go to the layers panel on the right side here, and we're going to hide some of these elements. You can hide them by checking the little eyeball button. If you're on a mobile device, you can do that by going down to the very bottom of the screen, and you can select, I believe, under the layers, and the little eyeball for each section will be on the very bottom. So we're going to go ahead and work first with slicing out the section here with the outline for the pink. So I'm going to go ahead and hide all the other pieces. So we don't want that visible. We don't want that visible. And I'm even going to hide this layer and this layer. We just want these 2 sections here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a box around them. And I'm going to go ahead and select the slice tool. And if you are on a mobile device, you'll go under actions and select slice. And remember, the slice tool only works if you've highlighted the pieces that you want to be sliced together. So we're going to go ahead and click slice. What that'll do is it will cut out a section here, and you can see that behind that, if we arrange this forward, so we're going to move that forward into the front, this piece here is sliced out of there. So we don't need that any longer. We can click exit out on that. So we don't need that. And it does slice that section out of here as well. So something that you can keep in mind if you want to make sure that it doesn't disrupt your project, because you have to use this circle over and over, you can always you can duplicate it before you do that. So we could always go back to where we were right before clicking slice, and you can go back one more time. You can take this, you can right click on it and duplicate it. And I like to duplicate a few times just in case I'm going to be working on slicing, because you usually will want to replace this after it's all done. So same thing as before, you can draw a box around it, click slice, and then we will remove those pieces there. And we can hide now this section here. So we can click and hide that, and we can take our other piece out of here. You can exit out all of those pieces. You can draw a box around them and click out. Now we can decide the next section that we're going to work with, which is we have this, and then we can also show that right there. So we know exactly where to place our project here. So we're going to place this directly right back there. And then we can go back to the pink section, make that invisible again, draw a box around both of these and click slice. And now you have that middle section that was sliced out of there and that there. So you'll notice that you have all of these different pieces. You'll want to remove those. And then because we're going to be doing this again, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one more time. And we can go ahead and make everything visible again just temporarily, so we can replace our piece exactly where we want this. And then we can hide those pieces again. So I'm going to hide the pink. I'm going to hide the bar behind it. And now we have just this section. So I'm going to draw a box around it. We're going to click slice again. And what it'll do is remove those sections that we don't need. So we can exit out of that, exit out of that, and exit out of that. Now we can unhide all of these different layers that we were going to be using. Oops. So now everything is exactly where we need. We can see that section is sliced out. We have a replacement to put in here. So that whole section is pretty much ready to go. And something that I think looks really neat is when you're working on a project like this, sometimes it really looks nice if you inset this just slightly. So to inset this, what we can do is just slide this down a little bit. We do also have tools for offset and inset as well. But right now I want to just go ahead and size this down just slightly so it looks a little bit nicer inside that space. And that way we have like a nice little border around it. I'll inset it just a little bit more. So I'm just adjusting the size on there, and then we can drag this right back over here, and then you can kind of take a look and see and think about your placement of like, are you happy with how it looks, or did you want to change it out? And if you're happy with how it looks, go ahead and duplicate that. And so this is the piece that we're going to play around with. I'm just keeping an extra one because it's always handy to have one the exact same size ready to go. We're going to go ahead and choose a font to go inside of here. So I'm going to go up to where it says text and click on text, and then we're going to choose an initial. So for this one, I'm just going to use my initial, and that's A. And change the color on this one to pink because I want it to match in there. So I think it's going to look neat if we have something like that directly in there. So I want to change the font. I'm not 100% happy with that one. So I'm going to go pick a font. So I'm choosing Art Deco. And Art Deco itself is a multi-layered font. So if you're going to choose something that's a multi-layered font, you can tell when you select the font, it'll tell you multi-layer cutting or a single layer. You can use multi-layer ones even if you're not going to use every single layer. You just select which layer that you want to use. So I don't want to use those two layers there. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that layer. So delete it and delete that one. I just like this layer here. So I'm going to make sure that the color is the color I want. And now we can adjust the sizing to it. So I'm just going to use this here to help me decide the sizing. You can adjust the sizing either up top through the font sizing up top here, or you can adjust it by sizing on the top. If you're using a mobile device, you'll click under Edit, and then on the very left side, you'll be able to choose the different features for sizing on it. Actually, it's probably a little bit more towards the middle. So once you have it, you'll just place it where you would like it, where you think it's going to look the best. You can also use the sizing tools if you'd like. You can highlight both pieces, go up to the top, and you can choose your alignment. So you can have it aligned in the center vertically if you want it down a little bit more, or horizontally, just so you make sure that you have everything kind of laid out exactly how you'd like. So I'm just going to go ahead and arrange it how I'd like. And then once you've arranged it, you can draw a box around it. You'll use the slice tool again. And what this does is it cuts out the section. So we can take this piece out, we can insert this piece in right there, it's ready to go. And now we have this piece that we can insert right back in. So normally if you were doing your mug wrap, all this part that's behind here would be white. So this border around here will be white. This section you sliced out would be white, and the part behind all of this chevron will be white. But because I want a little pop of color on here, I'm adding in this one back in. So now you'll have that, little accents and hints of white, but you have this part in here to insert. So we can delete these pieces if we no longer need them. And then when you're ready to cut this, what we're going to do is we're going to click on our little template here, and you can hide it if you'd like. If you're going to save this project to edit and use multiple times, you may want to keep your little circles so that you can use them later and it's pre-sized and ready to go again. But you can always hide this layer because you're not going to use it for that, and then you can use this as your template to reuse over and over again. So for this one, it's going to be cutting this one in a separate piece. This will be in a separate piece, that pink. The black here, the outline, will be a separate piece. But these pieces here, because they're the same colorway, they can be connected together. So I'm going to highlight both of those pieces here. And I'm selecting both, and I'm going to go ahead and click attach on those ones, and those will be part of the same thing, and they'll also be ready to be attached to the background too. So we can take that and just do these separately, and then that way when you're piecing them together on here, you have it set to the background. So we'll click attach on there. And then you can always change the color back to this color that you want. And then you have these pieces that you'll just be able to insert the pieces onto the canvas itself, the little sticker background. Now we have our project already ready to go. We can go ahead and save it, and you can also click Make It. And as you can see, your project is attached on this one to the mat, so it's ready to go. You can see the little tabs for the background. So this is essentially the background. You're going to place everything onto this piece, and then you have this section that you can place on it as well. Whenever you're working with Infusible ink, make sure to click the mirror, and we're going to click mirror on the next one as well. And then go back to the main screen. Whenever you're working with heat, we reverse it because the design is going to go on backwards essentially to the item. So we're going to click continue. Now we're ready to choose which material we're using. So we're going to select Infusible ink transfer sheet, and you can adjust the pressure as needed. The default pressure is usually pretty good, so I would usually just go with that one. And we're going to go ahead and load the fine point blade and cut the first mat and then cut the second mat. For this example, we're going to be using the Cricut Joy, but you can use any of the machines. You can use the Maker or the Explorer series machines. You'll want to break out your mat for your machine. Also, we're going to be using two different colors of Infusible ink. We're using the pink version from the Watercolor Splash and also a sheet of the black as well. I'm going to be using some heat resistant tape and we'll also use a Cricut mug. You can also use a sublimation mug as well. So as long as your mug is made to be used with sublimation materials, it will work perfectly. For the next part, we're going to take our infusible ink, and you'll notice that when you're working with infusible ink, it has two different sides. One side will have kind of a shiny coating, and the other side will have all of the ink coloring on it. When you're placing this on the mat, you want to make sure that you have an inked side facing up, and the reason for this is if the ink touches your mat, it will leave behind ink on the mat, so we don't want that to happen. Smooth your project down onto the mat and make sure that it's pressed firmly to adhere. We're going to also make sure that we're using the correct tool for our project. We're using the Cricut Joy for this one, so we're going to be using the standard blade that comes with it. If you're using a Cricut Maker or an Explorer machine, you'll be using the fine point blade. And then let's load our mat into the machine. Unload your mat from the machine, and then we're going to flip our mat over and hold onto your project and just lightly roll back the mat away from it. This will help prevent any creasing. I'm just going to take one of the full-size sheets and trim it down to fit the size that I need for the mug. So I'm using my Cricut paper trimmer here, and I'm just going to run that down and get it to the right size that I need, and then we can apply this one straight onto the mat the same way that we did the previous sheet. So once you've smoothed it down, you'll load it straight into your machine, and we'll go ahead and start cutting and following the same steps as before. Once your pieces are cut out, what we're going to do is work on separating them from the background. So you'll notice that you'll see all the score lines across it, and there'll be a whole section along the top that we're going to remove because the pink is going to be along the top rather than the black and white on the bottom. So you'll want to roll all the pieces in your hands, and it helps if you go along with the direction of the cuts, and that way it comes across evenly away from the background. So there's a tape background that's kind of sticky on there, and you just want to kind of roll it, and you'll hear a cracking sound as you're working on it, and you'll be able to peel away the sections that don't belong on the sheet. So here's kind of an example of what it sounds like when it does the little cracking noises when you're peeling it back from there. It's kind of loud, so I'm trying to edit down some of that so you're not listening to it for the whole time. But that's kind of what you'll be looking for when you're working with it, and it should peel away nice and cleanly. Take the circle portion for your monogram, and we're going to release it from the background a little bit. And the important thing to remember for this is when you're removing the section for the initial, keep the background elements in there because you need that to be the background for when you place in the colorful letter of the monogram. So we're going to remove the section with the monogram and place it right on top of that section. And make sure to press it down so that it stays in place. The plastic backing is still on the circle, and I've cut that down to size a little bit so that way it can fit within the space that's given. We're also going to remove the backing for the pink section and cut that down. We're going to trim it down just a little bit so that way we have less layers involved in this one. You can also remove it straight from the background if you'd like to as well. And just make sure to line up everything as best as you can. And we're going to go ahead and also place in that circle for the monogram right in the center. So just make sure that you've got that pressed in there so that it holds firmly to the background of the tape. Our next step is to clean our mug, so make sure you use something like a lint roller, a lint-free cloth, or you can use an alcohol wipe. Anything just to make sure you're free of oils or pieces of lint, hair, anything that might interfere with the process of the design. For the best results, always make sure to trim away any of the extra transfer tape that's part of the infusible ink. It just gives you a nice clean result and you don't have to worry about having any lines transfer to your mug. So when you take a look at your finished transfer, you're going to notice that one side is very colorful and that's the side that we want to have facing the mug. So we're going to be breaking out our heat resistant tape, and the reason that we're using heat resistant tape is because it will work in our machine and not have any issues with leaving any marks or discoloration behind. If you're going to start applying it this way, you can tape it approximately 1/2 inch or greater from the handle, and that will give you enough of a space. And then you'll just wrap it tightly around the whole mug and make sure to just secure it at the ends. If it's loose at any point, rewrap it tightly, and you can also add tape along the top and the bottom to help it stay in place. Make sure to turn on your Cricut Mug Press and follow all the safety recommendations. The mug press will make a beep and turn green when it's ready. It's ready to work with. So what we're going to do is place our mug inside the mug press. Make sure you're careful when you place it in because it is very hot. You'll want to center your mug handle as you're closing the lever on there, and it'll close in around your mug. You'll press it down completely and it will take approximately 6 minutes from start to finish. As you can see, there's a timing indicator along the top and it'll let you know how far along in the process you are. When the beep sounds again, we're going to remove the mug and let it cool. Okay, now it's cooled down completely. We can remove the tape from here and check out how this one turned out. And you can tell that it's finished using it all completely because it looks all faded out here. And then you can check out the cup. Look at how bright and vibrant this is. I really love how that turns out. And it's so cool because you can get a really kind of custom look just by playing around with different colors and different designs. There's a ton of different things you can do with this. I hope this tutorial helps you to have more information on how you can design using the Cricut Mug Press and Cricut Design Space. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos, and leave a comment below. Let me know what kind of videos you would love to see next, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.